at what happened with Sam. He got into the company. He worked 2 weeks for free. That is having skin in the game, and he had actual skin in the game because he was now given equity and rose to become COO. That's huge. That all started with guts. So 2 exits, and now you founded another company. You're CEO and you're running it. But what I always say is when people look up to people like you, who's a serial entrepreneur, who is an author, who's a speaker, who's done so many things, they see you on top of a mountain and they think that, oh, that guy has climbed that mountain, a mountain of successes. But really, entrepreneurs like you and me, we know that we're standing on top a mountain of failures, right? We've failed so much, but it's just the thing of us getting up again, being so resilient and trying again, learning from our failures. And so, in reality, we are standing on top of our failures. Let's talk about failure. You say failure made you learn a lot of what works and what doesn't. What's your advice to people who are afraid to fail?
There is so much. I don't know where to even start. There's so much to talk about. I definitely have a lot more failures. It's like, it's just like, I think it's a quote from Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant. It's like,
Mm.
you miss the I mean, they've missed a lot more shots, or they've missed millions of shots that they've taken, but it's just that so happens that they take a lot more shots at the ring, or the hoop, basketball hoop. And that's what the difference is. So it's just that I have taken a lot more shots, and just like you have. And so we have faced failure, but you just move on and you learn from it and you adapt from it. And so, to give you some real life examples, I've been in New Zealand nearly 18 years. And over those 18 years, I have applied for hundreds and hundreds of jobs and never got a single one just from applying. So every opportunity or every business that I've owned is through people. And so it's what I've learned is it's not what you know, but who you know that works. And at the end of the day, doesn't matter how technologically advanced our society gets, people work with people. And that's what we need to realize. So we need to work with people, we need to build a relationship, we need to engage with people, and provide value to them, or bring a smile to their face, kind of a thing. So working with people, networking with people. So I used
Yeah.
to do a lot of offline networking. Now I do a lot more online, and
Hmm.
hence I am reaching out to you and doing things like
Yeah.
this. So
Awesome.
that's one of the thing I learned. And so whenever I'm going to start a business or do anything, I'm still going to use or leverage my connections and or my people connections. So yeah.
Got it. So when you applied like 100 jobs, right? How did it
Or
feel
probably
like?
500, 500
500.
over,
Oh my
yeah, over
goodness.
18. And without failing, so every time I'd make a unique covering letter and a unique CV, but I'd never get a job. So then the only thing was for me to start my own business, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So if you don't get any job, start your own thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I started.
It is so interesting for me that you tell us you have 500 pretty much rejections from your job applications, and that's tough, right? So you got 500 no's. What happened to your 2 yeses that became exits? How did you get into that pharma company, and how did you get into that esports company? Can you tell us the story?
Absolutely. Okay. So these 500 rejections are for these 500 were the jobs that were advertised in online job websites like Seek. I don't know if you have Seek there, or just our newspaper back in those days. So these were the advertised jobs. The
Mhm.
the two yeses I got were through, these weren't advertised at all. There was no opportunity in them. The first one, someone introduced me. So I was doing consulting on the side, growing businesses on the side. Someone recommended me to this pharma company. So I went to them and I said, hey, let's work for a month. And if you like what I do with your business, if I can really grow it, I can show it, give me a part in your company. Then, it's in my benefit also to keep growing it. And that's exactly what happened. I gave them phenomenal results, so that I managed to take more and more stake over time in that company, because the company got more and more reliant on me. After that exit, the second one, once again, I was applying for jobs everywhere and I was pretty much unemployable, because everyone says that, hey, you always owned a business, you won't
Yeah.
last, or why do you want to work for us? So if I just applied for a job that was advertised in newspaper or an online job website, I would just get a no, or sometimes they wouldn't even write to me. Most of the times they'd
Yep.
be just silence. So I found, okay, then I decided what's the industry I want to go in, found the right companies, and I thought, okay, I found this company and I thought I can work with them and I can really add value to them. I can really grow it, really scale it. So then I contacted their CEO. I found him on LinkedIn, which is very easy to find anyone on
Mhm.
LinkedIn. And as expected, he didn't reply. So then I
Mhm.
found him on Facebook. I searched for him, pretty much like stalked him online, and I messaged him on Facebook. No one replies to anonymous messages on Facebook, so he
Yeah.
didn't reply. Then I found his email address from somewhere and I emailed him. And once again, as expected, he didn't reply. Then I just, Googled someone's name, and then I found that where he was going. He was going to a conference or a
Mhm.
sort of an event, physical event. So I went to that event, and during the lunch or the dinner break
Mhm.
during that event, I went and I cornered him and said, like, hey, I'm the guy who's been pestering you, who's been bugging you. I can do really cool things for your company. I can really scale it. How about I work for you for 2 weeks for free? If you like what I'm doing with your, of how I'm promoting your company and growing it, give me a give me a chance. If not, we go our own ways. No risk for anyone. So he
Yeah.
said, cool. And then did really good work for them, gave a lot of value for, made, like, created a lot of value for that company, that they got once again reliant on me, and
Yeah.
I over time managed to get a small stake in it and
That's
become
awesome.
chief operating officer. So yeah, so it's like you will get no's in life, but
Yeah.
you just have to position. So big, just very similar to your story, like where no one would give you a job, so you have to make your own job in a way.
Yeah, I was virtually unemployable. 28 failing units. No one fails that much in IT in college, and pretty much I wouldn't get accepted in a lot of job openings, so I had to start my own business as well. But it's super interesting. You showed guts right there, and that's what a lot of people today need to have. You have to have guts. You have to have grit. Just keep on doing what you're doing. I mean, you got rejections on all platforms, on SMS, on email, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, you name it. But you still took the time to search about this guy, to research about him, know where he's going, and ambush him there. And I know a lot of people would say, "Oh, I'm not going to do that." But hey, look at what happened with Sam. He got into the company. He worked 2 weeks for free. That is having skin in the game, and he had actual skin in the game because he was now given equity and rose to become COO. That's huge. That all started with guts. You have to have the guts to seize opportunities that you create. In Sam's case, he created that opportunity and he
Yeah.
seized
There,
it.
there was no job advertised there. So most of the jobs in New Zealand, I don't know about Philippines, do not get advertised. They go through people to people kind of thing. So you need to know people. And this is one of the way, when there were physical events. Now it's online. So, do
Yeah.
what we are doing in a way.
Yeah. Super awesome. Thank you for that
One
story,
one
Sam.
last thing I would like to add, just like everyone, I also worry about, what would people think, what
Mhm.
would people say. But that is one thing you have to give up if
Mm.
you are going to go ahead with this approach. Even
Yeah.
right now, if you're online and if you do post something, there is a small chance that people would say mean things. If you upload a video or if you
Yeah.
do something, people would put a negative comment or
Yeah.
people won't be appreciative of it.
Yeah.
But that's fine, doesn't matter. That
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You'd still There'd be still 10 other people who'd find it useful, so do it for them. And the same thing
Yeah.
applies, that
Yeah.
don't worry about what people will say.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're doing something significant, you will encounter opposition. But if you're not doing anything significant, then you encounter zero opposition, right? So you have to choose where you want to be. You want to do something great, fine, but you're going to be encountering some no's, some naysayers. You might be encountering some people who would criticize you, would say mean things to you, but that just means you're doing something significant. You're changing something, you're rocking something. And that's what you did, Sam.
It's just like, if you have ever driven a car without power steering, you would know this, that it's very hard to turn a car that is not moving. It is a
Yeah.
lot easier to turn a car that is moving. So go out and build something.
All right, so we have here Mr. Sam Kamani in the Leadership Stack podcast. Sam, thank you for joining us. It is a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Sam, you are the CEO and co founder of Product Done. Can you tell us a little bit more about that company? What do you do?
Yes, sure, Sean. At Product Done, we build software for really early stage startups or entrepreneurs and founders. A lot of the founders who come to us are non-tech founders, and they have like an amazing idea or like a really good idea about, like, say, like a SaaS product or a mobile app, and yep, we just help them bring their idea to life.
So you guys do coding, you develop their ideas, and just to give us a little bit more idea about how much that would cost. So we have a lot of people who have ideas here in the Philippines. We have a lot of people also tuning in from abroad, from Dubai, from the US. We have some people tuning in from Singapore. How much do you charge for, let's say, a simple software as a service product, or for a company who wants to digitalize their inventory ERP?
It's a very good question. Now it depends on, it's just like asking how much does a house cost, and it
Mhm.
would depend on lots of factors. However, I can give you like a really rough sort of a ballpark figure in, say, US dollars, and it would be, we have built software anything from 5,000 US dollars to, say, 30,000 max. So that's what most of the apps or the SaaS products range in that we build. However, we have even helped some entrepreneurs build, say, like a very small proof of concept or a very small, like a clickable prototype that they can go to their investor and get funding and go from there. So we have
Mhm.
people in all sorts of stages and all sorts of budgets. Yeah.
Got it. Awesome. And how long has Product Done been doing this? How long have you been running it?
I've been running this for last year and a half, but before this, I've had like two other exits in few different
Mhm.
areas, and so yeah.
So let's talk about your exits. You mentioned two exits. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? You're 39 years old. You already have two exits under your belt. That's very, very, very impressive. So tell us about the exits you've done. What's the first company? What's the second company? And if you have more companies, please let us know. We'd be so interested in what happened there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So the first company I pretty much joined in 2007, and it was in herbal supplements or nutraceuticals or very similar to like a pharmaceutical product. And when I joined, it was everything was sold offline via catalogs and via call center and in offline channels. Where I came in with was with my expertise with e-commerce and digital marketing and growth hacking, and I managed to grow that company like fivefold or like nearly 500% in few years. So that gave me an opportunity to buy in the company, and I was always like as a part of their succession planning. So that's how I managed to get in and own a part of that company, and had that exit in towards the end of 2015. After that, I took a bit of sabbatical, did few other things, tried few other things, and then I found this opportunity with a software company that made esports tournament software. And so yeah, I joined that as once again head of growth to grow that company, and I grew that from 60,000 monthly users to 300,000 monthly users in a period of 8 months. And with my contributions in that, I managed to become a chief operating officer or CEO of that company. And yep, so that got acquired towards the middle of 2018. After that, I thought, okay, I've got two exits. I've done the startups. I've managed to do it. So why not go out and help other entrepreneurs achieve the same and get similar results? So that's why I set up Product Done with one of my friends here who owned an agency for last 10 years. So we set up this. His agency was helping predominantly corporates. So we thought, can we improve our processes and make them really, really fast and a lot cheaper, not the corporate pricing of hundreds of thousands of dollars, that any entrepreneur, any founder can, give their idea a go,
Yeah,
give it a try and learn from it and go from it.
that's awesome. Super. That's a very noble thing for you to do. So I'm curious, from a pharma background, selling pharma nutritional companies, and I know that you did digital marketing for them. I know you did your expertise for them, so you weren't selling or formulating the products, but you did the marketing for them. But from that kind of industry, jumping to an esports industry, what happened in between? Why did you suddenly jump towards and say, esports probably the next best thing after pharma?
Yes, that is a very, very good question. So there are like few things that, yes, that I did get a lot of success in the pharma sort of space. However, it is a very, very tough space to operate in. Probably not right now, but back then there's just like so much regulation. And one thing that I found is that every time, we started in New Zealand, and I took it to Australia and US and just a couple of the Asian countries like Taiwan and Hong Kong, or Asian markets, sorry, not countries as such. Um, However, it's like every market has their own regulation, and it can take even up to 2 years. Also, as soon as I was dealing in physical products, we had to worry about expiry dates and the size of the manufacturing and supply issues and
Right.
all sorts of other things, that it becomes extremely hard to scale.
Mhm.
And I love scaling companies, I love scaling products. So I was just itching to get back into tech. By training, I'm a developer and a marketer, so I have a degree in computer science and all that, and so I was just itching to go back into
Yeah.
a tech product that I can scale easily. You have
Mhm.
a we in our we ran a tournament, and we got some influencers like UFC stars and all sorts of like rappers, and we got over like 2 million views for our esport or a PUBG tournament, where we gave
Wow.
out gold chickens, like real gold chicken, because winner winner chicken dinner. So we get some really interesting things, and people from all around the world can tune in on Twitch or YouTube or Facebook
Yeah.
Live or wherever you might be. And scaling is so easy, going from 1,000 users to 2 million. doesn't, or
It's
viewers,
huge.
doesn't take that long. Whereas in a physical pharmaceutical type product, it would take years and years and years
Yeah.
to achieve
Yeah.
that. So yeah, scaling was the main reason why I
Got
went
it.
back into tech.
Got it. And when this happened, so when you exited the pharma industry, you mentioned that you were hired and you were always part of the succession planning. I'm curious, when you guys exited, did all of you exit? Like all of the shareholders, did all of you exit?
There was only one other shareholder besides me, so there's only two shareholders in that,
Got it.
two directors. So yeah.
And did both of you go out?
Yeah, we both of us exited
Got it.
at the same time. So yeah, I mean, it is absolutely vital to have the agreement of your co-founder or the person you're running your business with in pretty much everything you do. You need to have the same vision, otherwise it's very hard to go anywhere.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because not a lot of companies who would acquire another company would allow like everyone in the board to exit or everyone in the operations to exit, right? So that's actually a very good thing that you both got out at the same time.
Yes. I mean, the thing is that financially, we could have done a lot better if if we stayed in
Yeah.
and for a couple of years. But having spent quite a few years in that industry,
Yeah.
both of us were quite so.
Yeah.
So my previous co-founder from that company, she's went on and written like 6 books now, 6 fiction books
Wow.
now, and so she always wanted to go back and become an author and write books like fiction books. So
Yeah. That's
so
awesome.
she's very satisfied with her life. So that's what she wanted to do, and I wanted to go back into tech. So that's why
Yeah.
we took a lower valuation for it, and because we wanted to go and do something that we really enjoy and that we
Yeah.
really love,
Yeah.
kind of thing. So yeah.
That makes sense. Let's talk about your book. You are also an author. Did your co-founder inspire you to write a book?
The previous co-founder, in a
Yeah.
way, yes, because the previous co-founder from the pharmaceutical or the nutraceutical company, she
Mhm.
is probably now in her early 70s,
Oh
and she
wow.
has never stopped learning, and she has like this amazing discipline. Every day she wakes up like really early, 5 o'clock, and exercises and eats right and writes her book. So each of her book is like 90 to 100,000 words, and she's written like
Wow.
6 books in 3 years or four
That's a lot
years.
of words.
So yes, and it's fiction.
Yeah.
So she has got this amazing discipline, and so we needed that discipline as well. So yeah, so I mean, she did inspire, and also like I did want to write. I have all these stories from all the businesses that I've done, and so I wanted
Yeah.
to share about how to how to grow and scale your startup, how to scale your business. So yeah.
So,
Yeah, regarding my book, it's called the 30-day startup.
mhm,
It's called the 30-day startup. You can look for it on Amazon,
mhm.
and yeah.
If there's one thing you want people to get out of the book, what will it be?
Pretty much the title gives it away.
Mhm.
It is called 30-day startup is because it is a it is the methodology of developing a minimum viable product really fast and promoting it really fast. You know, if you've got an idea, don't sit on it for years and years. Go out and do it. It's just like if you have ever driven a car without power steering, you would know this, that it's very hard to turn a car that is not moving. It is a
Yeah.
lot easier to turn a car that is moving. So go out and build something. Don't wait for it, and build it fast. You are not a corporate. The main advantage that a startup has is its speed, its agility
Yeah.
over a large corporate who would take months and years for planning and so many people agreeing. You're
Mhm.
a founder or have a co-founder, just two or three of you, just go and build it and start promoting, get real feedback.
Awesome.
So yeah.
That's awesome. So I do workshops for the lean startup here, based on the lean startup here in the Philippines, and this book sounds a lot like it was influenced by Eric Rice himself.
Absolutely. I love that book. Yeah, absolutely.
The Lean
I've
Startup,
read that.
super
Yeah,
good
I've
book.
read that like 2, 3 times. So yes, so it is very much like quite a few of the things.
Yeah,
However, what I've done in this is that I have added like the first part is on all the companies that did it in first like in just few weeks, built
yeah,
their MVP in few weeks and released
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Companies like Dropbox and Airbnb and
yeah.
all sorts of successful companies. The
The
second
new
part,
ones.
yeah, the second part is a lot on from my own experiences where I'm sharing about how I managed to grow or acquire users or customers when I didn't have much money
Hmm.
or or doesn't matter what business you do, resources would always be limited because if you have more resources you still want to achieve more. So how to get the most out of your marketing budget, or so they are the practical sort of steps and hints on how I use influences or whatever tactic I did at that time. So yeah, so that's the second part about.
That's awesome. I'm so excited to get that book here. We're, if you didn't know, guys, we're trading books. I'm gonna be sending Sam my book, CEO at 22, and he's gonna be sending me a copy of his 30-day startup.
Yes, as soon as this lockdown is finished in New Zealand, I'll send you a copy.
Awesome. And if you guys want a copy, please let us know. You probably have a Kindle copy of that, right? An EPUB or PDF
Yes,
in
yes, yes. So
Amazon.
Kindle, I often make it free every now and then whenever Amazon allows me to. So do check it out. It might be for free.
Awesome. Awesome. So watch out for that, guys. So you're doing so many things, and I've read that you are also a part-time artist. Now I want to know a little bit more about that. What do you do as an artist?
So as an artist, I do a bit of oil painting. I will send you a link to some of my oil paintings, and you'll be able to have a look at them. But I've been super busy with Product Done, and I've got a sort of a side project on a fintech product. So I haven't got any time in the last year and a half. I haven't done, or at least a year, I haven't done any painting. But pretty much in my life, every time I'm in between companies, I've done painting. So after my first exit, I did quite a few oil paintings and stuff. And then once again, after my second exit, I did it again. So, so who knows? Maybe after my third exit, I'll get back into it.
Yeah, and you mentioned that you go to exhibits. You place it in exhibits. Is that right?
No, no, I
Your
haven't done
painting.
that so
Oh,
far
okay,
yet. I just
got
put
it.
them in my office and stuff.
Got it. So it's your personal artwork and your personal collection,
Yes, yes, personal collection
which
and
someday would
my.
sell for millions.
Not sure about that. The artist got to be dead for that.
But that's awesome. That's super awesome.
People who give up in the face of adversity will never succeed. You have to have the strength and the will to win and keep moving forward.
You've mentioned time and again the importance of hiring the right people and the pain of hiring
Mm.
the wrong people. How do you usually recover from setbacks? These are huge setbacks. You mentioned that it costs a lot of money, a lot of heartache,
Yeah.
headaches. How do you usually recover from setbacks?
First, remove yourself from the failure. Don't say to yourself that I failed. Rather say that it was a failure or it's a mistake and I will learn from that and move forward. A lot of people, especially entrepreneurs kasi, they personalize the failure.
Hmm.
I failed. And yun na yun. Nagkamali ako, ayoko na. That is the mindset of a loser. You're going to be buried under the mountain of your failure rather than standing on top of it. So if you separate yourself from the failure and see failures as lessons, not mistakes, you see each and every one as lessons and you learn from them, apply them, don't repeat them, you're going to get better. It's inevitable for you to get better. With that, learning from all of your failures and separating yourself from the failure, recovering from setbacks is easier because people who personalize the failure, they cannot recover. They're traumatized by it
Mhm, mhm.
and they don't want to try again because they believe they will repeat it and fail again. One of our core values is experimentation, and we have a short excerpt there that I wrote that we try new things in the spirit of having a positive outcome. And we use that phrase often actually when we want to try something new. It's always in the spirit of having a positive outcome. It sounds funny, but there is an implicit mindset behind it is that is be courageous. Have the courage to try new things
Mhm.
because it is not in the spirit of failure. It is not with having a vision of failing, but rather it is with the vision of having a positive outcome. No one goes to a gold mine to dig dirt. We all want to get gold, but you have to go through the dirt to get the gold. Another thing that has enabled me to recover from setbacks when hiring these wrong people is grit. You have to have the tenacity and the resilience, or in Tagalog, yung kunat. Makunat ka sa in the face of rebellion, in the face of betrayal. And these are heavy words because these really happened to me. Betrayal, I could say there was something traumatic about these things. It happened to me 3 times. I have changed in light of these things, some of them in a good way, some of them in a way that I didn't like so much, such as being ruthless in how I decide sometimes or in how I say things sometimes. I have to change that and I have improved in that area. But there, you have to have grit. People who give up in the face of adversity will never succeed. You have to have the strength and the will to win and keep moving forward. People who bounce back from failure, yun yung nakikita nating successful ngayon eh. People who are successful today, they
Mhm.
failed. I'm sure of it. There's not one person who's successful in our world, in the definition of our world at least, who never failed. They all failed. Most of them failed in a big way and they got up. Big names. Elon Musk lost his money, billions in selling PayPal, almost went bankrupt, went back to sleeping on the couch, and he's a big name now, right? Everyone knows Elon Musk.
Mhm.
But maybe you didn't know. I've read this book. It's what happened to him. Steve Jobs failed. He says in his Stanford speech that it was bitter medicine, but the patient needed it. And that was when he got fired as the CEO of Apple Computers. But he ended really well. Sold Pixar to Disney, made a lot of money there, had been reinstated as the CEO of Apple, took the reign, made Apple the number one company in the world. These people failed. So know that you're going to fail. And if you don't have the grit and resilience to stand back up, especially in the face of adversity, you're going to just stay in the mud. Sayang.
You mentioned ruthlessness in your decision making process, in your speech, your words.
Mhm.
This is something you're still struggling with.
I would say yes. And the reason why I say that is because there is a part of me where I would say it's now instinctive. I don't like being ruthless, but it is the natural tendency for me to say things in that way. There are times when I hurt people's feelings. There are people who will argue, hindi kasi yung personality mo is dominant, high D ka. And dominant people are task oriented, they don't care about people's feelings and are can say mean things. But I don't take it as an excuse eh. Na yun na
Mm,
yung personality ko kaya
mm,
ganito ako eh. I know I have to improve on that. And so I try to first delay my initial reaction to every opinion I hear. My team may not notice it, but I delay, I keep quiet, I listen before I say anything. But I also tell the truth. It doesn't mean that you try to be less ruthless, that you will lie or try to sugarcoat your opinion. No, you have to be clear. You have to make sure that your message gets across. But there's a balance between being ruthless, because you're clear, ruthlessly clear, and being mean. Being mean is personalizing the fault, the blame. Saying na, hindi, kasi ganito kay, kasi engot kay, bobo kay. These things, you're just being mean. You're not being ruthless. That's wrong. If you're being ruthlessly clear, you might shut down some of the things that they are saying, but that is because you're trying to protect the company or to protect them from making a mistake because you've been there. There are ways to say it better. There's always a way to
Mm,
say it better. That's where I want to get to
mm.
because I know that I don't lie. I know that I'm not mean, but people say I'm ruthlessly clear. That may be a good or bad thing depending on who I'm talking with. There are people who like it, but there are people na yung kung tawagin nga natin balat sibuyas are hurt by it, and then they would not tell me they're hurt, magiging gossip na, and it's not good. So I know I need to improve in that. I want to improve and optimize every part of my life, including in how I say things.
What else do you struggle with? Maybe a habit, a mistake, a practice. Could be personal, could be professional. Even as an organization, are there things that you notice that hey, we're still doing this time and again? It's time to stop.
I think one of the things we can improve as an organization would be the reporting systems.
Mhm.
So everyone is accountable, but it's not clear what really is happening on a big picture perspective. I always have to go there to talk to people on their seats about the granular details. And for me, it could be avoided if we have a big picture reporting system. So that's one thing we can improve on. Personally, what I want to improve on stems from a bad habit of sleeping late because I want to wake up early, like early morning, 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. A lot of people are already telling me their opinion that it's very hard, it's difficult, it's impossible, but that's something I want to improve. Eh. And in order for me to be able to rise to that goal, I have to fall back to the level of my systems, which is what's my sleeping pattern? Do I try to wind down by 9 or 10 p.m.? Or am I still up and about during that time? Because if I am, there's no way I can get up at 6 a.m. But if I'm already winding down, doing my nightly routine to be able to sleep by 10 or 10:30, then it's easy for me to get up at 6 or 6:30. It's a lot easier at least. So that one is something that I hope I'm able to achieve this year. Maybe by June, hopefully, I'm already able to adjust my entire lifestyle. Because when we're talking about sleeping habits, it's your entire lifestyle. Eh. It gets adjusted. Now you're not going to be able to work on creative things at night, which I'm used to doing because I'm a night owl. That's when I write my excerpts in my books, my chapters. Now I have to write it early in the morning, which is better, but I'm not there yet. I don't wake up that early yet. So right now I'm still forced to do it at night. How can I change that? There's two ways to go about it. Number one, you just will have I just have to sacrifice sleep and lack sleep every day until my body adjusts to wake up that early in the morning. That's difficult, that's unhealthy, and that will make my decision making capabilities here in the office suffer. The other way to do it is to force myself to be able to wind down and sleep at a certain time, which is 9:30, 10:30 p.m. Wake up early. That is healthier. That is also better for my decision making capabilities, but that is a lot harder to do. It's easier to just sleep when you want and force your body to adjust, but it's unhealthier. It has its consequences. So, two ways to go about it. I'm trying to lean more towards the having an early nightly routine. It is more difficult, but that's the way I want to do it.
Mm.
So those are some of the things that I still want to improve. I wouldn't go so far as to say that these are holes in our system that we need to fix. It's just things that we need to improve. And we are loyal now to team number one. Team number one is the entire organization, all of us. Not loyal to
Mm.
our own departments, not loyal to just our own couple of people, our direct reports. No, we're loyal to team number one. That's the entire organization. Hey guys, welcome back to the Leadership Stack podcast. We have Miss Jasmine Rivera right here. She is a singer and songwriter, very, very young. I'm not going to say her age. And she will soon to be on Spotify as Jazz Rivera. If you are listening to this and we're going to be publishing this after the fact, maybe a couple of weeks from now, perhaps she is already there. She has her solo albums already out and published in her phone, but she has to upload it on Spotify and she has to be registered as an artist on Spotify. So by the time you listen to this, she probably is already there. Please check her out at Jazz Rivera. She will have a couple of questions for me today about our topics, which is leadership, entrepreneurship, and management. So, Jazz, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, sir.
Now, let's move forward to a couple
Yeah.
of questions that you have for me.
Is it okay while you are still studying, you're applying already what you are learning because you want to start a business little by little? Or do I need to focus first on my study?
To be able to answer that question with more context, applying in what way? You're applying what you're
Marketing
learning in
and
school.
marketing course.
You're applying it where in school?
Mm.
You have an OJT or small project, something like that? Or you have a sideline already?
Sidelines.
Okay, so you're applying what you're learning from school to a side gig. Is that okay? Or should you focus in school first?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
Yes,
correct?
yes, yes.
Okay. Whatever you're learning, if you don't apply it, you will forget. This is why studies say that if you graduate from school, you only take around 10% of whatever it is you studied. And guess how many years you studied? We study for like 18 years, some 17, some 16 years, depende. But that's no joke. That's like 16 years of education and you take out 10%. You pay a lot of money, spend a lot of time, right? And then that's all you get. How you increase that 10% is through applying it. How do you apply it? Side hustle? Sure, no problem. Or a side project with your classmates? That's all right. The best way to really remember the things you study in school is to teach it. That's why a lot of the people who are able to get ahead in academics and tutor their classmates, they retain these things longer. So if you want to be able to remember, if you're studying something that's really interesting to you really like it, you believe you'll make a career or business out of it, my suggestion is you apply it through doing projects, side gigs, sure, or you can teach it to people outside of the education environment you're in or to your classmates. So definitely fine. In fact, I would encourage it. That is if you're genuinely passionate about what you're studying and you
Mm.
know that you have a future doing that.
I'll be taking marketing course, by
Mm.
the way, like putting up a business. I mean, starting up a business. Do they have specific subject? Tas pipiliin mo po ganon sa
Yes,
school. I mean,
they have electives.
apo.
Not a lot, but if you have electives, and I'm sure you will have, you can choose the electives. Otherwise, you have to go through the entire marketing course. If you want to do
Mm,
business, marketing is a facet of business, an important facet of business. But if you really want to study about the holisticness of business, although you will not really get to apply everything, entrepreneurship. But for me, you cannot really just study entrepreneurship. Eh.
mm,
You have to do it. Eh. You have to
mm,
have skin in the game. That's what we call it. Meaning, you risk your own money as an entrepreneur. You loan money from the bank, borrow money from your parents, or you put up your own capital and work hard and sacrifice a lot. That's how entrepreneurship is done. What you will be learning in school are theories. Unless you practice, apply it, and risk your own skin in the game, you will not really be able to learn entrepreneurship. Marketing, you can, yes. And you can use it someday if you have your own business. You can use what you learned in marketing in
mm,
there. I suggest you take some side learnings on top of your schooling. What I always say is do not let your schooling interfere with your education. Hindi porket graduate ka na yun, tapos ka na mag-aral. In fact, for me, the real studies, the real education starts after you graduate because then you can do what you want to try out. Fail fast and fail forward. My suggestion for you first, take networking or public speaking classes. That will give you more confidence.
yes.
In terms of dealing with people, talking with them, haggling, negotiating. Negotiation is one of the oldest skills that are important for a livelihood and trade. Sales is one of the oldest, most important jobs in history. If you cannot sell something, nothing happens for your business. Henry Ford said, nothing happens until someone sells something. Because you don't just sell to make money. You sell to allow someone to buy into your idea, to make someone do something you like or you want. For example, I had to sell you the idea that we're gonna do a podcast. Otherwise, you and I won't be here. Marvin Germo has to sell me the idea that I could mentor you guys for God and country. Otherwise, we won't be doing this. So nothing happens until someone sells something. In order for you to be able to do business well, you have to be able to sell and negotiate well. If you cannot do that, you will lose in business because it's a tough world. There's competition everywhere. All businesses have competition. Even Google, which is the largest monopoly of our time, they have competition. You have to learn these things. These things are the things that you will not learn in school. They will not teach you negotiation 101, 102, 103, 201, 202. They will not teach that to you. You have to learn it yourself and practice it yourself. But there are seminars and workshops for negotiation. You can learn it there and apply it there and practice it.
So here's my next question, sir. I know po you're an entrepreneur, but what if I don't have a capital fund for starting a business? What you what will you advise me to do first? I mean,
The thing is, a lot of people think that in order for you to start business, you need to have capital. The truth is, you really don't need a lot of capital. I started SEO Hacker with 1,300 pesos. That's the truth. Believe it or not, that's what really happened. 500 pesos I used to buy the domain name seo-hacker.com, 800 pesos to buy 1 gigabyte worth of hosting. Built the website by myself, a little help from my brother Kevin. It wasn't much. It looked like crap actually if you want to take a look at the history of SEO Hackers design, but that's how we started business. And I didn't have an office. I worked in the attic of my parents' house, and I worked 80-hour work weeks, maybe more sometimes. I had to sacrifice a lot. Movie nights, barkada nights. I don't really like partying or drinking out. I'm a homebody. All of these things culminated into what SEO Hacker is today because that set the tone and the momentum for us to be, now a 50-man team. The thing is, a lot of people will tell you you have to have money to make money. I don't completely agree with that because I did have money, but all I had was 1,300 pesos, which you probably have on you right now or sometime this week. It's easy for you to spend that. I spent it on business. What a lot of other people don't have is the knowledge, a wealth of knowledge that you process in your mind through experience and relationship with the Lord, and that turns into wisdom. That's what a lot of people don't have. And for me, that is even more important than starting capital. In the
yeah,
Bible, it says wisdom is more precious than silver and
and
gold.
gold.
And the reason behind that and behind King Solomon saying that, in my opinion, is if you have wisdom, you can generate as much silver and gold as you need. But if you don't have wisdom, you will not be able to keep the silver and gold, which you might have inherited from your parents or your grandparents, etc. You don't need capital. What you need is knowledge and wisdom. And you get that through investing in yourself by reading books, listening to podcasts, going to seminars, conferences, getting mentors. And then you gain wisdom by trying things, failing, and learning from the failure and prayer and devotion to God. That's what you need.
How many times did you fail? And what are those failures? What did you learn from that experience?
Well, I failed 28 units in LaSalle as a student. So that's a lot. You ask anyone who is going through college and they will tell you, ayaw nila bumagsak ng ganun karaming beses. Because, who wants to waste that much time and money? And that wasn't even my money, that was my parents' money. But the first time I failed in college was devastating for me because that's the first time I've ever failed in my academics. It was algebra trigo, algstrig in one subject, which was quite difficult. And after I failed, I binged on that. I was not able to get up from that failure. Basically, I went through a series of addictions through computer games, namely Dota. Dami kong barkada nun, dami kong kinat na classes nun. So obviously, I failed. And then when I woke up to realize that I really needed to graduate, and my dad was telling me na, oh, pag ayaw mo na mag-aral, magtrabaho ka na lang. Right? So those realities were coming to me already. I had to just cut every computer game out of my system and focus on my studies and finally graduated. When I started business, though I failed so many times through starting up. The startup phase is your first to fifth year. That's 5 years of masteral degree in entrepreneurship. There's no other way for me. There's no other way you're gonna learn entrepreneurship than to be an entrepreneur and put your own skin in the game. Some of my failures were hiring. I hired some people who were not good,
Mhm.
who I trusted. So I hired a lot of wrong people. And wrong people will make for a wrong team. A wrong team will make for a wrong company. And the people that I hired initially, I failed in the interview process because my strength and weakness as an entrepreneur is I trust too much. If I trust the right people, fantastic, super nice, really good working environment. If I trust the wrong people, it is a very bad, horrible disaster. And since both my strength and my weaknesses, I trust people too much at the get-go and I hired the wrong people. And it's easy for you to drag people down rather than pull them up. If I ask you to step on a table and I drag you down and you pull me up at the same time, malamang mahahatak ka pababa because of gravity.
Yeah.
It's really easier to pull people down. So a lot of the bad eggs I hired during that time pulled a lot of the people that I hired who were good eggs down. And they did the mass resignation, small mutinies of their own, and all of this venom trickled down to the third generation of hires that we did at SEO Hacker, and it was just a nasty time, which made for a nasty working environment. I wasn't in the office most of the time because I had to go out and sell our services outside so that we can all pay for whatever we want to buy and we can pay for the food that we eat.
Mhm.
We're running a business. I'm paying their salary. Whether they come in the office or not, have to pay their salary. Whether I close a deal or not, I have to pay their salary. Whether I eat or not, I have to pay their salary. And there were times that I could no longer eat and pay for my own food, but I paid their salary. And yet they would do those things to bring the company down. It just doesn't make sense for me up to today. Why would you want to bring the company that pays you so
Mhm.
that you can eat and you can feed your family? Why would you want it to fail? It just doesn't make sense. But that's what happened. That's one of my biggest failures. The
Mhm.
hiring process, the culture was not guarded because I was not present enough. I didn't hire salespeople because that was the thing that I think I was able to do the most. Here's the reality: you will always be the best salesperson if you founded the company because you founded the company. But the thing is, you should never be the only salesperson and you should never be always in sales because you're out there when your team on the ground here needs you. Your team at home needs you. That's the thing that I'm doing now. Thank God there are people now helping me in sales that I'm able to develop more leaders here internally. And I have a very good team to help me lead our people better. And we are loyal now to team number one. Team number one is the entire organization, all of us. Not loyal to
Mhm.
our own departments, not loyal to just our own couple of people, our direct reports. No, we're loyal to team number one. That's the entire organization. So it makes for a much better working environment. And I learned from my failures. You see, when you look back and people look at me now and tell me, "Oh, you're so high up the mountain, you're standing at the summit of your success." And I tell them,
Mhm.
"No, I'm not standing in the summit of my success, rather than I'm standing in the summit of my failures." Right? This mountain is a mountain of failures. And a lot of people get buried under it and just quit. But I was able to climb on top of it, pick myself up, climb on top of it until I got to the summit. And still more failures are coming down on me. And I have to have that discipline of just picking myself up and climbing up again. You learn from your failures. You fail fast and you fail forward.
Do you have any principle or structure on how to get people work for you?
One of our principles here is not to major on the minor things. For example, we only had our dress code when we moved here in this building, but when we were in our previous office, you would be able to see people. It's not uncommon for them to be in using slippers or casual shorts, t-shirts. that's fine because we don't major on the minor things. But now that we are in a building and we have a more corporate feel because there's 50 people, 50 professionals now working here, then we asked everyone to wear smart casual. And I've always been wearing smart casual for the longest time. So it was not that hard for them to catch up. Don't major on the minor things. That's one of the principles that we have. Other principles that I have would be Mastery, 10,000 Hours Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. It takes 10,000 hours at least to be a master at something. You want to be a master songwriter or singer,
Mm.
vocalist, you have to have 10,000 hours of practice. That's really how to go about it. You want to be a master drummer, pianist, 10,000 hours. If you have, oh, 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, meaning you're consciously trying to collect all of your mistakes. How I'm able to do that with SEO. So 10,000 hours is usually 5 years, right? If you're saying 8 hours a week, 5 days a week, that's 5 years. How I did it in SEO Hackers, I went overdrive. I went 80-hour work weeks, and I would always do consciously and deliberately improve myself in terms of my craft in SEO and in writing and conversion optimization. And so this is a culmination of deliberate practice. That's something that I want my team to also be able to do. And all of these principles, we wrap them up into our core values. So we have grit, unity, respect for work, becoming a challenger. You challenge the status quo, you challenge yourself, you challenge other people, having clarity when you communicate with each other and with the clients, and being able to always try new things in the spirit of having a positive outcome. That's experimentation. So we have six core values
Mhm.
that are really the culmination and pinnacle of all of these principles that I have. Because at the beginning, it was hard for me to really realize what the important principles were that I want to apply in a company culture. And you only really realize these things as you go and as you hire the right people and put them on the right seat in the bus.
Mm.
Those are the principles that we have. No? Grit
Mm.
is all about being able to stand up again when you fail. It's moving forward, having the resilience and tenacity to
Mm.
move forward. When you make mistakes, use it as opportunities to learn, not reasons to quit. Respect for work is being excellent about your work, is being at work on time, doing work in working hours. Hey,
Mhm.
there's an idea, right? So, like, of course, it's working hours. You have to work.
Yeah.
Having unity in the team is very important because it's hard to work with someone that you are not united with. You are actually in conflict with. That's very difficult to
Mhm.
do that. You will not be able to do work that matters that way. Being a challenger, challenging the status quo, always trying to grow, that is very important for us. Clarity is all about when I communicate with you and you don't understand it, that will be a
Not
disaster
working.
because our output to the client is not going to be good. So, having clarity between teams and individuals is one of our core values.
Mhm.
And experimentation is all about trying new things, not
Mm.
being afraid of failing.
Mm.
Thomas Edison failed 1,000 times before he was able to finally have a successful light bulb. And that's the kind of attitude we want here in SEO Hacker.
What is your personal brand? How do you think people will see you as CNC?
I have been working at my personal brand for a long time already since I had the Shansi.org website. That is a website, if you look at it from the Wayback Machine, that's archive.org, it looked really bad in the beginning. It looked like my resume, actually. All of my
Mm.
stuff in the resume was there because I really intended for it to be an online resume. You see, when I was starting out as a public speaker, a lot of my inquiries for talks would ask me for a resume, which is weird now because no one does it now. Like
Mm.
companies and schools will not ask for my resume anymore. But before, it really is what they were looking for. So I had it done that way that it looks like an online resume. But if you look at chauncey.org now, it is nothing like a resume. It is about who I am and how I do it. In fact, entire videos of me speaking are uploaded there. My PowerPoints are uploaded there. And the branding that I have is actually tied up with what we're doing right now, which is the Leadership Stack podcast. We talk about entrepreneurship, leadership, and management. And where we publish it is through technology platforms such as Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, etc. And I am best known for SEO Hacker
Mhm.
because it is a business that I started up. A lot of who I am is still tied up with it. I'm a founder CEO, which is, not a lot of people are now founder CEOs in terms of, at least here in our country, the Philippines. That is the branding that I have right now. And in order for me to be able to build that, it took a lot of years and consistency. The thing about branding is you have to be consistent. If you are not consistent with it, meaning kalat kalat, your thoughts are chop suey.
Mm.
It's a hodgepodge of different things. What will happen is there will be no branding because you are a jack of all trades, and branding is all about identity. What can people identify with when they see you or when they hear your name? So mine is digital entrepreneurship, author, these couple of things. It's not going to reach 10 items. It's just a couple of items that they can associate me with. That is the branding that I have. And why personal branding is important is because I get paid for these things, nothing else. If they want something else, I would say that's not part of my services. That's not part of my branding. I don't do that. You want my opinion? I'll give you my opinion, but I'm not an expert.
I was just meeting disappointment and running into walls at every turn. And I couldn't break through on my own, no matter how much I tried. And I went to him. I really went and sought God. And, my life started shifting from that point on.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. We are here today with Miss Jacqueline Madison, and she is someone that has piqued my interest because she is of the same faith as I am. I'm a man of faith, I'm a born again Christian, and Jacqueline is the CEO and founder and editor in chief of Beverly Hills Magazine. Now, if you guys are wondering, Sean, how does a website make money? How does like an online magazine make money? You will learn that and more from Jacqueline today. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Hi, Sean. It's such an honor to spend some time with you. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Jacqueline, we are so eager to learn from you. But before we jump into the economies of the online world and online magazine, I want to ask you something. You did a ton of stuff, and I have looked you up. I have seen your websites, and you did a ton of stuff like acting, writing, directing. And we have right now Beverly Hills Magazine, which is 8 years old now that it's 2020. Tell me about the idea. Where did that come from? How did your journey look like?
Sure. Well, right out of high school, I started my professional career in real estate. So that had an element of sales and marketing. And one day I was doing, my sister wanted to do a photo shoot at one of the listings we had. So we let her come in and with the crew, and I started directing the shoot and getting involved. And I loved it. And I was like, oh, maybe we could do a calendar, or oh, let's do a magazine. And the idea to create a magazine was born. And this was in around 2008 when the market in the United States was crashing. Like we were just entering the recession. It couldn't have been a more worse time to start really any business. But then again, that's not necessarily true. I think, but perceivably, it was a bad time. So we started the first magazine, and we decided we would just fund it and just use sales and or promotions to try and build the company. But it failed because we failed to establish a very clear business plan from the get-go. So on that, we learned what not to do. Then I decided to start a second magazine, a digital flip book online by myself, separate from the family, just to forge my own independence and find myself as an entrepreneur in my own right. And that one also failed, but I was able to build the magazine and kind of learn the elements of creating an online magazine, but it never reached a level of financial success that I had hoped for, dreamed of. And then rewind during the recession and during the process of the first magazine and the failure of that one, I also reached a point of like personal failure. Like I was like, "Ugh, not filled. I was making wrong decisions. My personal relationships were also failing. Like I just wasn't succeeding, and I wasn't living the life that I knew that in my heart that I could. And I went to God, Sean. I cried out to the Lord, and I asked for guidance and instruction, and I asked for forgiveness. It was like a cry of repentance. I needed God's help. I was just meeting disappointment and running into walls at every turn. And I couldn't break through on my own, no matter how much I tried. And I went to him. I really went and sought God. And, my life started shifting from that point on. I started getting supernaturally guided by God. God started giving me dreams. And to this day, I do my dream analysis every morning, and I really get God's instruction and guidance. And it was from that point where my life started taking a whole new direction, in a whole new dimension, and a new trajectory of possibility. And God put it on my heart to look for Beverly Hills Magazine, the trademark. And I went and looked it up. I mean, I had no money. I wasn't living in Beverly Hills. Starting Beverly Hills Magazine was so impossible and so out of my realm of possibility at the time, that this was an impossible dream. And the trademark was available. I couldn't believe it, and I realized at that point, oh my gosh, this is from God, because this is a miracle. This is an opportunity that I get to build, that God has given to me. And I knew it was going to be a tremendous walk of faith, because I had zero. I was starting from absolutely nothing to create this. And I knew it was going to be a tremendous walk of faith, which it was. And every day I continued to seek God through prayer and through reading his word and just drawing near to him to get kind of a supernatural infusement of wisdom and instruction. And he has guided my life every step of the way, and supernaturally brought the right people, the right provision, and the right wisdom and guidance for me to create the magazine to where it's a thriving business and making money, and only continuing to grow. So I'm really grateful.
I want to take that story and just deep dive into it, because I'm curious. You got this trademark, and a lot of people stop there, right? Oh, it's available. And they just say, but I'm not sure how I'm going to make money out of it. I'm not sure how I'm going to start. I don't know how to code. I don't know if I could ask a technical co-founder to be a partner of this company with me. But you had a vision, because you're not going to go ahead and buy that trademark and start what you started if you didn't. So during that time when you saw that trademark, what did you see, and what were the first things that you did?
Such an excellent question. So when I was a small child, a young girl, I always wanted to be an actress. And I saw myself also with a briefcase. I was going to be a businesswoman. And I think our natural God-given gifts and talents, and the thing that God actually created us to do, is revealed to us when we are children. And those skills and talents that God puts in us are displayed when we're children. So I encourage us all to look to our childhood, to what God created us to do. And when God gave me the vision for Beverly Hills Magazine, it was as clear as day to me that this was going to be an open door into Hollywood, into my greatest childhood dream fulfilled, which is being an actress and being in the movie making or television show space. And so as I pursued the vision with God's daily instruction, knowing the end from the beginning, knowing where God is taking me, because God's word says, without a vision, people perish. So it's important that we go to God for his vision for our future, so that we always have the hope of what we're working towards. Because God's word also says that, my thoughts toward you are good, not for evil, to give you a hope and an expected end. That means he's going to reveal your life to you. He's going to reveal your destiny to you, our expected end. So we don't have to have confusion or uncertainty because God shows us and tells us what's in store for us. And there's great comfort in that. And that's what I saw. I saw that this magazine could be a global publication and that I could move into acting and producing and into the television and film making space, which was one of my greatest desires. And I'm doing that because not only do we have the online magazine and the digital publication you could subscribe to, we have the print magazine as well, which I love. I love the creativity of it all. But I'm also producing Beverly Hills Magazine TV, where you viewers can subscribe and watch the show where I take viewers and readers with me into the world of the rich and famous, where I'm traveling the world. In fact, I have an all expense paid Turks and Caicos trip coming up. All glory to God for that blessing. So that's just one example of what we'll be featuring in the show. And then also, when we seek God's guidance and instruction, Sean, for the life path he has for us, because there's free will and there's God's will, and God's will for you is your dream life, because it'll allow you to use all your gifts and talents, and it'll bring you into a path of prosperity and purpose. Your spiritual gifts will be activated to a whole nother level. And so one of mine obviously is writing, because I started the online magazine one article at a time. I mean, the first 2 years I just was stuck to my computer writing, and I loved every minute of it. But I've also now that, spiritual gift activated to another level, I've written a scripted series based on my life as editor-in-chief. And I've written a 13 episode, a season 1 of the show. And I wrote that in about 4 to 6 weeks, which was also for me just an incredible thing. I never in a million years dreamed I would write a television show, let alone about my own life that I get to star in and produce. You see, but God says, when you delight yourself in me, I'll give you the desires of your heart. And he really is just so wonderful. And he's giving me all the desires of my heart because I seek him and I love him with all my heart.
That is amazing. In order to give our audience already what we promised them in the start, is for people who aren't familiar with how an online magazine generates revenue. So kind of rewind back to 2012, 2013, 2014. How does an online magazine make money? Is it profitable during those early days? Is it profitable now, especially during this time when people are just at home spending a lot of time on entertainment and the economy is really not at the perfect state? Is it making money now, and how did it make money back then when you were starting?
So an important point I want to say is God is the CEO of the universe, right? So he manages and creates everything in perfect working order with the utmost of excellence and wisdom. So when he guides you to build your business, when you seek him for guidance and instruction, just as I have, he's going to give you a certain process that's going to be the right way to build the business. And that's how God has taught me and led me to build the business. So to answer your question, the beginning of any venture, especially if you're starting it with no money, the answer is no. It's not making money from the beginning. Because you have to build it. You have to lay a foundation of any company to establish the groundwork and the proper infrastructure in which it can build and grow and make money. And Lord willing, have multiple streams of income within the same company, which the way God has taught me or led me to build the businesses, there are multiple revenue generators built into the business model. The first few years I was living with my parents, and thankfully I could live at home and not have any money and just focus on writing the articles and building the content base. But by the grace of God, I didn't know SEO. I didn't know any of these elements that had to be incorporated into an online content magazine in order to actually grow online. But, there was God brought the right person, just the perfect person entered my life. She emailed me, or I don't even know how we connected. And this is how God works in our lives. He supernaturally brings people to your life. That's why I say, don't chase anything but your dreams. That which is meant for you will come to you. And this is how our faith activates these supernatural provisions, because God moves in our life by faith. And faith is the evidence of things not seen and the substance of things hoped for. Faith is an intangible spiritual substance that allows God to manifest the spiritual into the physical. So my whole journey has been just a supernatural manifestation of provision. Without money, it's been the right people, the right tools, and platforms just showing up at the right time. That's why you can do it with no money as long as you have faith. But along the way, some people would pay me because the online business model is people pay you to write articles in your online pages. They pay you to put links in those online articles that link out to theirs. And the way God led me to build the business was I've also incorporated an online marketplace. So as I was creating fashion articles or creating little fashion sets with a dress and shoes and watch, or a cool suit and jacket with cool shoes and a wallet for men, because I do fashion for men and women. Again, God also led me to a platform where I could incorporate an online store where viewers and readers can go buy everything in those fashion sets. So I have a full e-commerce site, although it's not, you don't actually purchase, it's not, well, I guess you could say it's e-commerce, but it's more an affiliate sales business model where you can purchase from the third party companies and websites where you can buy those fashion items and beauty and jewelry. I mean, you can go buy $1 million necklace from my website, because of the marketplace that I've created in the store. And we earn a commission from all those sales, whether you're buying beauty products, jewelry products, or fashion products for men and women. So that's just one. Plus the subscription business model, you can subscribe to either the digital, print, or now television. All three of them actually are annual subscriptions because I'm so busy and going to be moving into producing on a more full-time basis. God has allowed me to create the business where I can do it all. I don't necessarily have to be full-time devoted just to one creative endeavor. He's allowed me to build this online business with a system and process in place that's so automated, Sean, that it frees up so much of my time that I have free time to pursue the other dreams on my heart. That's so wonderful about God because all things are possible with him. He always tells me, don't underestimate what one person can do. And we must always remember that because when we have the grace of God in our life, working in us and through us, all things become possible for us too. And then
Amen.
during to answer your question about do we make money during this time? Yes, actually, absolutely. There was only just a small dip. I can't remember exactly the month, but other than that, no. You see the difference between me and the rest of the world, or between born again Christians who are children of God. We live and operate under the economy of heaven, so we're not. Our destiny and the things that we experience are separate from the traditional world because God is in control of our destiny and everything that happens to us. As long as we remain in that place of faith and abiding in God's love and his commandments, we are blessed and we walk in a path of prosperity. And what prosperity is it's a continual progression of growth in every facet of your life. And that's spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and materially. That's what prosperity is.
No one wants to fail. We were never trained to fail. But guess what? Failure is necessary. In fact, it is a part of success. May kasabihan nga na, don't ask how a sausage is made if you're eating one. So don't ask me how to get to that success, whatever success means for you in your head. Don't ask me how to get to it because the answer is a lot of failure goes into success. And that's the truth. You have to learn to fail and fail forward. Hey guys, welcome back to Leadership Stack Live. If you have questions, business, consulting, you want to ask me about your business or a startup idea, I am going to answer that. So this is actually kind of like a free business consulting session. So we're going to go top to bottom. First is from Mr. RJ Legaspi. What is the right mindset for success and failure in starting up a company? First off, success is relative. for each individual. Success could be happiness for one person. Success could be financial wealth for some person, for some people. Success could be financial security for some. As long as alam mong may makakain ka araw-araw, di gugutumin yung parents mo someday when they're old and gray, and you are able to provide good education for your kids. For a lot of people, that is already considered a success. For some people, they want to be millionaires, billionaires. There's different kinds of people who have different definitions for success. Now, if you say what's the right mindset for success, it's having that focus to go after whatever success means for you. The biggest thing nowadays that hinders us from success, in my opinion, are distractions. And that's because we live in a world full of distractions. Your phone is the number one source of distraction in your life. It's not your hobbies, it's not your pets, it's not your husband or wife or parents or siblings or kids. It's your phone. Sarap sana no pag it's a real person cause for your distraction because it's a relationship. But no, it's not. It's your phone. It's your smartphone. That's the number one source of distraction that we have today. Whenever there's a notification, Facebook Messenger, SMS, Viber chat, WhatsApp, whatever it is, we are wired to just pick up the phone and give it attention. Last week I mentioned that my phone is always on DND. Actually, that pisses some people off because they couldn't get to me in time. And the reason why it's on DND is because I need my focus time. I consider myself a creator. And when I don't create things for the day, I feel like kulang yung araw ko. Like I wasn't able to do something productive for the day. When you create, you need focus. You can't be distracted. Your phone cannot be ringing and you answering the phone all the time. Creation requires deep work, and deep work happens within the first hour of focus. You have to be focused for 1 hour before you actually create something deeply. That's from the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. I do recommend that book. If you want to read it, get it. I read the real book. I was fortunate enough to buy it pre-pandemic and finished the entire thing. Brilliant guy, brilliant book. I do recommend that book for you. So for me, success is having focus. Really taking off everything that's distracting you, that's hindering you. It could be your phone. It most probably is your phone. So you have to maybe uninstall some apps, maybe turn it into do not disturb mode, like what I do 24/7. It's on DND, not even on vibrate. And that's because we're wired to just get our phone whenever there's a notification or a vibration. Downside, well, downside is mahirap akong kontakin. No? For some people who really need to contact me, I have to get back to them at some point in time. That's the downside. But how often does that happen? Not a lot. Really, extremely rarely does that happen. And plus, I can always get back to the person. That is something that I think you should have as a mindset. Just being relentless, being determined, just eliminating all the distractions in your life. The right mindset for failure, I think this is more important because a lot of people have good mindset for success, but the right mindset for failure, that is very, very important because a lot of people are failure averse. Di tayo tinuruan bumagsak sa school. Walang teacher magsasabi sa'yo na okay lang bumagsak. Zero. No professor, no teacher will tell you okay lang bumagsak. And that's because you pay for tuition fee. And that's because you're going to repeat it if you fail. So people are failure averse. We grew up that way. We were trained that way. We were hardwired that way. Well, guess what? Life involves failure. If you want to succeed, and I tell you, a lot of failure goes into success. Do you still want to go that route? Gusto mo pa rin bang subukang habulin ang success? Kapag sinabi ko sa'yo, a lot of failure goes into success. You will fail a lot of times. You know, a lot of people will say, no, I would rather live a life where I can get by than live a life of success. And that's because I don't want to fail. No one wants to fail. We were never trained to fail. But guess what? Failure is necessary. In fact, it is a part of success. May kasabihan nga na, don't ask how a sausage is made if you're eating one. So don't ask me how to get to that success, whatever success means for you in your head. Don't ask me how to get to it. Because the answer is a lot of failure goes into success. And that's the truth. You have to learn to fail and fail forward. You see people who are successful, they're on top of a mountain, maybe. You see them as an overnight sensation. But guess what? That mountain is full of dead bodies. And those dead bodies are the dead bodies of the person standing on top. They failed a lot of times. They died a lot of times. And they were resilient enough to just get back up and climb again. climb on top of their dead body. Saklap pakinggan, but really, that's kind of what it feels like. That's kind of what it feels like when you're trying to get to success, because you have to fail a lot of times. A person standing on top of a mountain has climbed a mountain of his or her own failures. That is the truth. And if you want to be a successful entrepreneur or a businessman someday, that is the pretty much the road you're going to have to travel. There is no shortcut unless you're going to do it in a dishonorable fashion or an underhanded fashion. Then you could probably do it in a much shorter time span. But, I'm a man of faith. I believe that there is a God and judgment comes someday. So my advice is do business with honor, do business with integrity, fear God, love God, and make sure that when you're doing business, you do it right. The moment you do it wrong, kahit konti lang yan, the moment you do it wrong, you're going to go down that rabbit hole and it's very hard to climb back up. Always remember, everything is given to us by God. And if you're not a good steward, meaning you don't take care of the stuff that's entrusted to you by God, nandadaya ka, you cheat or you do under the table, it's going to come back to you, right? God's going to come back and we're going to get what's coming to us. That is what I believe. From Cedric Choa, thanks for tuning in. Question is, can you share with us your fair share of moments of failure? Fair share. The first thing that comes to mind is when I was hiring people. I failed a lot in my hiring process. That's because I have a strength and a weakness. My weakness is I trust people too much. My strength is I trust people too much. So it's a strength if the person I'm trusting is really good, honest, and high honor. They really want to do the job well. They're responsible. They're disciplined. It is a strength because we will work really well together. But it is a weakness if the person that I'm trusting is the wrong kind of person, is dishonest, leaks out, gossips, and is not responsible for the work that he or she has to do. Then I get a lot of damage. And unfortunately, early on in SEO Hackers' time, I hired a lot of wrong people and I trusted them completely. So that was a huge mistake on my end, huge moments of failure. It was a disaster. The slander against me and SEO Hacker would go all the way to universities that really has nothing to do with me and has nothing to do with my company. So ganun na siya kalala, no? Umabot na sa kung saan-saan. I have no idea why they would do that. As far as I'm concerned and as far as my memory is concerned, I have never wronged these people, but they must just be the wrong kind of people that I hired. And it was wrong for me to trust them too much with information that I shouldn't have trusted them with. That was definitely a huge moment of failure for me. Other moments of failures would be probably when I call people out in public. So that is a weakness of mine, and that is because I'm an extremely high D in the DISC spectrum, a very dominant person, always asking when can this be done? When's that going to be done? Why didn't you finish it on time? Why did this happen to this project? So I'm very task oriented. My empathy is not extremely strong. Well, it's not strong at all, actually, because I'm more of a say it like how it is guy. And I'm very frank, very truthful. Sometimes people don't like to hear the truth if you don't say it right. So I tend to not say it right. I tend to call people out in public. That is a very big mistake. And I do honestly regret those times that I did that because it's wrong and you lose people's loyalty that way. So if I had to do it all over again, I would do it one-on-one, privately, or in a close circle of trust. At least we all know each other, we're honest with each other, and it's fine for us to call each other on our blind spots. So from Mark Davis, what's your biggest mistake in your business? I would say the same is the hiring process. It's a common mistake. It's not uncommon for entrepreneurs, especially first-time entrepreneurs like myself, to have a sucky hiring process where my hiring process was like this. Oh, I need someone in this position. So I'm going to search in Facebook and post it there. And then people would apply. I interview them, one seating, and then I say, you got the job. And guess what? They burned the job down. And what makes it even worse is I need to fix that and do the job myself. So it doesn't make sense that I have to get them and pay them to do it and they burn it down. And I would have to do it anyway. And then they go around gossiping and slandering the company and me. So it is a big mistake. And how you solve that, take time. Take time in your hiring process. Right now, our hiring process is a lot longer than what it used to. So we have a 6-step hiring process. A lot of our applicants actually tell us that it's too long or it's the longest hiring process that they've ever had. But here's the thing. We get the best people out of that hiring process. And I'm not the only one saying that because I'm now working with the Exicom or board members.
And they say that we really get good people now compared to when I was the only one hiring. So yeah, that's the biggest mistake. Patrick Miguel, what's the one thing you consider your greatest failure that led to your success? Well, I failed 28 units in college, and LaSalle wanted to kick me out because of my failures. That's a lot of failures, by the way. And those failures are because of cutting classes and because of my absences, because I got so addicted to Dota. And that those failures led me to my last 2,000 pesos in the bank and in my pocket. As painful as it is, I wasn't always a personal finance management guru or thought leader. I really wasn't. I was broke. And I guess that failure led me to humble myself before God. And I told him, I just want to start a blog for you because my passion is writing. And I started the God and You blog. And if you haven't heard the story yet, the God and You blog was where I wrote about my faith, but no one was reading my stuff. So I searched in Google, how do you increase your readers and subscribers? And SEO kept popping up. So I studied SEO. And when I learned SEO, I applied it to the blog. Readers started coming in and my traffic went up. And I realized maybe some people need to learn this and they need it as a service. So I started the SEO Hacker blog. And that blog, I just wrote all my strategies, tactics there. People started reading it. Then people started to hire me. And I started out as a freelancer, really, a one-man team. But because the projects kept coming in, I had to hire more people, finally rent an office, and we grew and grew and grew from there. But it really stemmed from, I guess, my failure in college. 28 units of failure brought me down to my knees. My last 2,000 pesos, I gave it up to God. See, God will use your weakness, and God will bless a lot of people with it, like what I'm sharing with you now. Imagine that kind of failure leading to me sharing what I know with you guys. All of the stuff that I'm telling you now, I hope it's helpful to you. I hope that it's valuable to you. And I cannot be doing this if I didn't go through that kind of failure.
Being a creative thinker really helped me come up with all my books and the creativity school, so that that's why I'm such a advocate for creative thinking. All of these books are written on topics that I have experience with and things that I've learned from my own life.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Leadership Stack Podcast, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs to increase your leadership, teamwork, and profits. This is your host, Sean C., aka Mr. CEO at 22. Hey guys, welcome back to the Leadership Stack Podcast. Today we have Mr. Frederick Kiomia. He is from all the way from guess where, Uganda, and actually the first guest we have on the show from Uganda. And he has founded the Creativity School and Kiomia Publishing. And he has authored, would you believe it, 13 self-help books at the age of 25 years old. You can check out his books. We're going to leave the links in the show notes. But as of today, I just want to say, Frederick, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Frederick, this is the most interesting question that we usually touch base on during the beginning of the show, and that is, what is your startup journey? I mean, you started out this thing called the Creativity School, and you started your own publishing company. How did that happen? Where did you get the idea? Where did you get the inspiration, funding, whatever it is that moved you from point A to point B? We want to know the story behind it.
Well, I would say it was really born out of struggle. Firstly, for my publishing, when I wrote my first book, I tried to find an agent. I was rejected 44 times. So I couldn't find an agent. I was getting rejected left, right, and center. So that's when I decided to take matters into my own hands and self-publish. And so that was the beginning of Kiomia Publishing. I just decided to really just take control and publish my own work. And as far as, becoming an entrepreneur, about July last year, I had just finished a work situation and it wasn't satisfactory to me. So I didn't really, my prospects weren't really looking so good, finding another job, and it was really difficult. So I just decided to start what I was doing and just go for it. So that is the background to what I'm doing now.
So tell us about the Creativity School. How did you get the idea of starting that up? I understand that you got rejected by publishers, and there are a certain number of people I know in my network who pretty much went through the same struggle. I mean, if you're an author for the first time, you don't have a name for yourself, no one knows you, no one knows your stuff. It is a struggle. I understand Kiyomiya Publishing was born out of that struggle, but how about the Creativity School? What's the story behind that?
Well, the Creativity School, it was less of like a lightning bolt kind of moment. It was really just kind of, it took a while to kind of take shape. When I first started, it looked very different from what it looks like now, actually. I really just wanted to create a platform where learning was more exploratory and learning was more interactive. So it wasn't just like me, giving instruction to whoever's on the platform. I really wanted the platform to be an exploration of different topics, self-mastery, money, things like that. So that's really the idea behind the Creativity School. And that's the reason I created the Creativity School, is to explore all these different topics.
I've seen some of your books, How to Master Yourself, How to Plan Effectively, How to Be a Creative Thinker. How did you get the ideas of, you see, I'm an author myself. I wrote 2 books. It was difficult for me to give birth. Literally, it's like giving birth, right? When you write a book, the process is so long in writing, editing, rewriting it, having it re-edited, doing the final editing, the layout, the book cover, getting some blurbs in, getting a foreword in, and it is a long process. And one of the things that I struggled with during the beginning was thinking about, what is it really that I want to write? And it's not because I lack something that I want to write. It's just that I have so much things that I want to write about, but it cannot be about everything. One book cannot be about everything. It has to have a certain niche. And I could see that yours was kind of segmented into very niche parts: How to Master Yourself, A Simple Guide to Self-Mastery, How to Plan Effectively. How did you come upon these segmentations on the topics that these books are going to be talking about?
Well, all of my work is really based on things that I've experienced. For example, how to plan effectively. In my career, I've had to plan what I was doing before I went into it, because I had limited resources. So that really helps me not to waste time, not to waste money, because if you go into things without a plan, you end up really burning a lot of cash and wasting a lot of time. And so, that's one aspect. For creative thinking, being a creative thinker really helped me come up with all my books and the Creativity School, so that that's why I'm such a advocate for creative thinking. All of these books are written on topics that I have, experience with, and things that I've learned from my own life.
So let's talk about what you mentioned. I like that, creative thinking. A lot of people hear the word creative thinking and what comes into the mind is just thinking. So what is different between thinking and creative thinking? Maybe define that first before we go deeper dive into it.
So thinking is I would define thinking as just having, a random thought, like, what am I going to have for lunch today? How am I going to get from point A to point B? That would just be thinking. Creative thinking would be, okay, I have 1 egg, 1 tomato, 1 piece of lettuce. How can I put those ingredients together to make myself a really nice meal? So that would be creative. Another example would be, okay, I have to get from point A to B, but I only have $4.66. So how am I going to take those $4.66 to get me from point A to B? Am I going to use a bus? Am I going to use the train? Am I going to walk, part of the way and then get on the bus and get off the bus and then walk, the rest of the journey? So that is the difference between thinking and creative thinking.
That sounded to me like it was a real life scenario for you, because it's a very specific amount, $4.66. So,
well, yes,
it was, huh?
It was one time.
This episode is partnered up with Armory.ph. Armory is an online watch store and is the exclusive distributor of the brands TW Steel, Dion Milano, Fonderia, Luminox, and Mondane in the Philippines. Yes, folks, those are Italian watch brands. If you are looking to buy your next go-to luxurious everyday watch, go to Armory.ph and enter the coupon code LS30. Armory.ph delivers straight to your doorstep with a security tape to make sure that your package is safe from theft
arrives on time, and is guaranteed working 100%. Go to armory.ph and buy your first luxury watch today.
So you don't invest when someone says that a certain investment is guaranteed, because when they say it's guaranteed, it's almost guaranteed to be a scam. And nothing is guaranteed, right? Because if it was, then the one asking for the investment would be the one investing in it.